The spiritual legacy of Karl Maeser, I think without a shadow of a doubt, can be found in what is now known as Brigham Young University. And his efforts and his sacrifices have reverberated and affected perhaps every country on this earth.
I think the word that would describe my feelings is grateful for Karl Maeser. I was not born in America, and I still was affected and impacted by what he did.
Really, it was this blend of taking what he had learned and understanding the divine direction that was being given to him to establish an institution. And that blend is what BYU continues to do today.
Such a critical part of BYU's mission is this combination of study and faith, of being intellectually enlarging and spiritually strengthening. And I think the reason we approach it that way is because these are things that are not mutually exclusive.
Karl Maeser was a German immigrant who spent some time here in the British Isles. He was one of thousands and ultimately millions who left Germany for a better life, because for many of the immigrants, they were seeking a better life, economic opportunities. For Karl, he was seeking religious freedom, and the British Isles was a bit of a place of stability. In the summer of 1856, Karl was called as a missionary, and as part of this mission, he was tasked, along with his companion, to proselyte to the German immigrants in London.
It was a time of enormous religious vitality, but also of enormous religious debate. One of the big characteristics of 19th century English political and social and cultural history has in the background the enormous expansion of religious denominations and religious revival.
In the 1850s, when Elder Maeser served a mission, there were more than 30 branches of the church scattered around London. And they'd had many, many thousands of people hear the message of the gospel, with many of those people joining the church.
Study from gospel.
There is a large percentage of the church membership today that can trace at least one ancestor to someone who joined the church in England and somewhere in the British Isles.
It's a wonderful story of an immigrant community, of an immigrant Latter-day Saint who was able to spread the gospel amongst those from his fellow land in a land that was foreign to them.
Well, I think in many ways, Karl G. Maeser is sort of the superlative international figure himself in education.
Brigham Young tells him, I have another mission for you. We're starting a school in Provo, Utah, and we want you to be the principal.
Trained in Germany himself, and then the time he spent in England, and then eventually in the United States. And I think all of those experiences kind of made him the educator that he eventually became.
There was a lot of talk in the 19th century about truth and about light. And so for Elder Maeser, the strong connection and relationship between studies in the secular sense and studying the scriptures and gospel truths would have had a close relationship.
BYU is a great opportunity to balance school and the gospel. And I think it's so cool that we can go to an institution that helps us on our discipleship, but it also helps us to become more intelligent and to work hard and to learn things that are important for life.
When I was studying at BYU, I worked in the Harrowbilly Library, and there was a quote on the wall, Doctrine and Covenants 88, that talks about learning. You have to learn and study, but also spiritual and by faith. I think BYU brings both of them together. You can't do one without the other. I love that principle, and it has helped me so much.
I love that we incorporate faith and academics at BYU because honestly, knowledge is the only thing that we can take with us, right, when we pass away.
Knowledge is one of the wonderful Christ-like attributes that missionaries and all of us are so eager to obtain. And as we understand that in our education and our desire to gain knowledge, that really helps to buoy us up even those times when we feel discouraged by our own abilities or we feel disappointed in the outcome of our educational attempts.
There were certain challenges, of course, that Elder Maeser faced.
I think there was certainly a lot of disparagement and scepticism towards new religious groups on the part of established religions, in particular the Church of England.
Trying to find places to preach was quite difficult. There was organised opposition There were people who'd left the church, and in some of the meetings that Elder Maeser was at, apostates would try and disturb the meetings and try and disrupt the work of the saints.
I don't think I've ever seen this.
I think that London mission was quite hard for him, quite a struggle for him. It was an adjustment, right, to learn that, well, when I'm going to serve the Lord, I'm going to do whatever has to be done. The most important thing is what the Lord asks me to do.
There's been a lot of hardships and trials that I've had to face on my mission. Being on my mission has helped me to really come closer to Jesus Christ and to feel like I'm walking in the shoes of those early pioneer missionaries that first came to England to share the gospel, like Heber C. Kimball and Karl G. Maeser.
When I hear those things about Maeser, I think of the intent behind why he did all those things. It must have been very hard, and I come to the conclusion that he had a high love for God, and that's what motivated him to push through all those things.
I feel like when we understand that all things are spiritual to the Lord, that can give us hope and greater understanding.
In early May 1857, the idea of Elder Maeser heading over to Zion or to North America to join with the saints in Utah was discussed. Now, the means of emigration were beyond him. They, as leaders and as members and as branches, wanted to thank Elder Maeser for all the work that he had done, and so they offered to pay for him to go. The British saints had made it possible for them to get there, but in that process they had sacrificed themselves.
This little baby that was born, they named him Karl Franklin Gustav Maeser. He actually passed away as they pulled into port in Philadelphia on the 4th of July. That one has got to be one of the hardest experiences for them, but can you imagine? You get off the boat carrying a little baby in a homemade coffin while they're celebrating the 4th of July in Philadelphia.
They would eventually then make their way to Utah, where they could be sealed as a family and have the surety and the knowledge of an eternal family.
I think in every life, like with Karl G. Maeser, you think you know the route you're destined to take, and then it takes some very surprising detours, but those things can be divinely driven, and I suspect that was rather what Maeser felt when he received his call, that it was not what he had anticipated, but probably recognized that that was where he was supposed to be right then, doing what he was supposed to be doing right then.
He did not do the thing that was just convenient or practical at the time. He stuck to his guns. He stuck to what he believed was right, whether that was easy or whether that was hard.
Why should we know him? Why should we think about him? Why should we remember him? I think fundamentally it comes down to one simple thing. Each of us, regardless if we are a convert of the church or we are a pioneer of the church, we inherit a spiritual legacy. And we are in the church enjoying the benefits of what the church is today because of the efforts and sacrifices of others.
I definitely feel a sense of responsibility with the name Maeser. Every person that I know that are descendants of Karl, they all have a strong sense of loyalty to their family and also a strong sense of integrity to their word.
The message to me, that legacy to me, is that I have a role to play. And it may not be as important or as big as the role that he played, but I'm born at a certain time in a certain place, and I have a certain mission to accomplish. And like him, I don't know what that is, but I just try to live my life with integrity and purpose and honesty and hope that things will work out like they did for him.
Karl G. Maeser understood that the education of the whole person was the center of what an education should be. BYU continues that legacy, and it does so through an understanding that students benefit most when they're exposed to the truths of the restored gospel of Jesus Christ and the best that academia has to share with them, the best that the research of all of the disciplines has brought to bear.
BYU does a really good job at combining the faith with the academic part. All of that started because Maeser, he had a dream of a place where we could become disciples of Christ. We can read the scriptures, we can learn how to pray, while also just building a community of learning.
It more lifts me up when I do my religion classes, as well as just even in accounting. We're talking about Jesus before we learn about accounting. That's so cool. It just reminds me that, yes, even accounting can apply to the gospel, and we can be thankful to the Lord for helping us with accounting.
We can feel free to express our beliefs, and we're not persecuted because of it.
To be able to receive, quite frankly, a world-class education, but have it rooted in the gospel of Jesus Christ was just so precious to me, even now.
It's definitely against the grain, and I always appreciate people who stand for what's right, despite what's going on around them, especially if it's something that seems to be ahead of their time. He's just following the Savior's example.
All of it must be Spirit-guided and Spirit-inspired.
I can study, I can teach, I can learn, I can research, I can do all those things. But without faith, without that other element, without the Lord on my side, again, this is never going to be enough.
The most important thing, I think, is to recognize within our students that these are my fellow brothers and sisters, fellow children of God. And if I don't recognize that about the students I meet and learn to love and teach, I've missed the central, most important mission of any teacher.
When you read about those who had the opportunity to be taught by him, they loved him. They saw what he did for them, and he challenged them, and he expected a lot from them. They felt a one-on-one almost relationship with him. He helped those that he taught see their potential, to get a glimpse of what they could accomplish as they worked and exercised faith in Christ. He's amazing, and you can still feel him in this great university of Brigham Young.
He had had a dream where he had seen all the young people of the world, different races, different nationalities. He had seen Temple Hill, where BYU's campus is built, and it was full of buildings, temples of learning, he called them, and people from all nationalities, all countries, young people, had come to learn there. And he said, that's what I've got to do, that's the mission in my life.
Even though he literally had a vision of what BYU would be, there's no way he could have a vision of what BYU would be. There's no way he could understand what a modern university would be in a modern community, in a modern church.
It really is a privilege and an opportunity to have an education and to have people see that and give their all for it. And so I think we definitely need to acknowledge Maeser for all that he did for us and his legacy.
Today we can look at Brigham Young University and we can look at Karl Maeser and realize just how profound a change we can bring into the world when we remain focused on the glory of God and when we put our whole life into the work of the Lord. I think and reflect on Karl Maeser with great gratitude that this young man made the choices that he did and that he could bless the world in the ways that he has. I think it's very clear that he was a man of conviction, a man of intelligence, a man of understanding, but fundamentally he was a man of faith.